Hey guys, this is huge. I haven't done one of these random thought videos in a while, but I have some thoughts that have been on my mind. Where's the next Silicon Valley? It's been widely acknowledged by venture capitalists, people like Sacca, Marc Cuban, that there is a Silicon Valley bubble, and Forbes has already announced that that bubble is already beginning to burst. Where's the next place of innovation? Where's the next place that there's going to be startups? And Forbes has already announced that. Last March, actually, they announced that it's going to be right here in sunny San Diego, which is right behind me. I'm on Coronado Landing. Main question there is not where's the next city that there's going to be startups. There's tons of startups. This is an amazing city. Who wouldn't want to live here? A great place for a startup. Forbes nailed it. However, what they're talking about actually is where's the next place for venture capital? Because when they're talking about the bubble popping, they're talking about the 117 so-called unicorns. Those are unicorns, are companies that have overnight become billion-dollar names, household names. What's going to happen to the capital for that? So in 2014, about $48 billion was spent in startups just in the US. That accounts for over half of the world's venture capital. So a lot of startups, a lot of cities are going to be in trouble. I believe there are three different places to look to where the next Silicon Valley is as far as funding is concerned, and it doesn't happen to be venture capital. I happen to be on Periscope with Sacca, one of the new sharks on Shark Tank. He was saying, he made an off comment that it's a very, very bad time to be in venture capital or start a venture capital firm. What did he mean by that? He didn't really want to go into it, which is interesting. And then I asked him if the same thing was true about hedge funds. He said, no, it's not necessarily a bad time for hedge funds, but it's a bad time for venture capital. So here are the three places that I believe that if you're a startup, you're going to want to look for funding. It doesn't mean funding's not going to be there. It means that traditional forms of funding, especially from Silicon Valley or venture capital firms in Silicon Valley, are going to diminish or disappear. The first way is bootstrapping it. You know, good old-fashioned bootstrapping, which San Diego is well known for. The bootstrapping community here is amazing. I've got a lot of friends that are great entrepreneurs that are getting in Inc. magazine, Forbes, Fast Company, that have started here in San Diego as bootstrapping companies. That means you just buckle down, you release your USP, your unique selling product, much faster. You use your customer base as your beta testers. And so you don't release quite the polished product that a lot of these unicorns do, but it's a lot more honest because the valuations aren't overinflated. And that's part of what the bubble is, because startups are not going to cease. The US is kicking butt when it comes to innovation. Majority of the 117 unicorns are all US based, US started companies. They are really helping the economy in a huge way. They're going global as well, and we're starting to see that dominance that the US used to have. I mean, we invented electricity, the automotive industry, telecom, and now that has really shifted towards startups and tech startups especially. So the second place to look for funding is going to be crowdfunding, things like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and majority of them, over 84% of Kickstarters don't ever get funded, not one dime. So there is a formula for that. If you're going to fund your startup, you're going to want to get savvy on what is the best way. I happen to have a team here in San Diego that I use for consulting purposes, and they have hacked crowdfunding. Literally, they're batting 1,000. Majority of their crowdfunding campaigns get overfunded by 500 to 800%. The third source, which is a non-traditional source, and I hinted at this earlier, is hedge funds. Now, why hedge funds? So if you look at the global scope of things, all venture capital in 2014 amounted to $48 billion. Hedge funds in the same year was 2.4 trillion, I think, something like that. The reason why hedge funds are allowed to take part in these so-called unicorns or baby unicorns is because there are strict requirements of who can actually invest in a hedge fund. And because of that, the SEC lays off a lot of the regulations. So a lot of the people that could not invest can through hedge funds. One thing that hedge funds also do is they're allowed to invest overseas. It's a global market. You're going to see a shift in hedge fund and funding coming from and going to Asia. So look for funding from Asian markets. Look for investment opportunities in Asia, particularly things like, I forget the word for it, but hummingbirds. There's an Australian word for hummingbird, but it's the idea of taking one idea that works in one nation and cross-pollinating it to another nation. A lot of these unicorns are going to jump the ocean. They're going to get hedge fund money to actually do so. I know of a few, right? My hedge fund guy happens to be in the midst of discussions with a company which I can't discuss the name of, but it is one of the 117 unicorns. It's successful here, and it's definitely going to work when it jumps overseas. So those are the things that I've had that on my mind. I'd like to do more of these. I know that some of you guys have random questions and things that aren't answered in a lot of the other videos. So I'm going to do this more frequently and just take questions from you guys. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're not in San Diego, why? Like, why aren't you here? That makes no sense to me. If you are an entrepreneur that is looking for funding, you've got a great idea, and you don't know how to you can't bootstrap your idea, or you don't know how to do crowdfunding, or you have zero clue how to attract a hedge fund. You can't go after a hedge fund the way that you go after an angel investor. Angel investors sometimes walk into incubators. They look like gorgeous models stepping into a Tinder meeting or something like that. They get swamped by people. I know this because it happens all the time. But there's a different approach when it comes to getting the eye or attention of a hedge fund. It's a lot more complicated, but nonetheless, it is a lot more fruitful, and a lot of the strict requirements that you find are laid off when it comes to hedge funds. So that's all I have for today. I'll see you guys next time. Years, I've helped start, grow, or launch over 1,000 businesses. So you've got to deal with it eventually. How do you do it? I'm going to share with you guys my Handling Haters 101. How to deal with haters like a boss. To do so, I'm going to share 3 ways that I use haters, and I mentor people to use haters to actually build their business. And I'm going to give you 3 contemporary examples of people that I believe handle haters like a boss, and they have a lot of haters. That's Nicole Harbor, Ty Lopez, and the Don. Just for fun, I'm going to theme this with The Wolf of Wall Street. It's one of my favorite movies, but it also completely fits because it's all about succeeding despite initial criticism. So that's up next. Stay tuned. I'm doing 500, I'm out of control, but there's nowhere to go, and there's no way